Imagine standing on the edge of a vast, ancient forest, where every tree whispers secrets of gods and giants. This is the world of Norse mythology, a place where the air hums with the power of the divine and the echoes of epic battles. It's a land where every creature, every mountain, and every shadow has a story to tell. The gods of this world are not distant and aloof. They walk among the people, their tales of bravery, deceit, and fate interwoven with the lives of mortals. Norse mythology, with its rich tapestry of tales, offers a glimpse into the hearts and minds of the ancient Norse people. It reflects their beliefs, fears, and hopes. These stories were passed down through generations, shaping the culture and identity of the Norse tribes. At the center of these myths are the gods and goddesses, powerful beings who govern the forces of nature and fate. Odin, the All-Father, stands as the chief of the gods. With his one eye, sacrificed for wisdom, he watches over the 9 worlds. He is a seeker of knowledge, often disguising himself to walk among mortals and learn their secrets. His presence commands respect and awe, and his decisions shape the destiny of gods and humans alike. Beside Odin is Thor, his mighty son, known for his incredible strength and his unbreakable hammer, Mjolnir. Thor is the protector of Asgard, the home of the gods, and Midgard, the world of humans. His battles against giants and monsters are legendary, each thunderous strike of his hammer a testament to his bravery and power. Thor embodies the spirit of a warrior, fierce yet fair, always ready to defend his people. Loki, the trickster, adds complexity and intrigue to the pantheon. Born of giant blood, Loki is a master of cunning and deceit. His actions are unpredictable, often causing chaos and strife among the gods. Yet, there is a strange charm to Loki, a reminder that even the gods have flaws and that mischief is an inseparable part of existence. Amidst these towering figures stands Fenrir, the great wolf. Fenrir is not a god, but his story is one of the most poignant and powerful in Norse mythology. Born to Loki and the giantess Angrboda, Fenrir was destined for greatness and for fear. From the moment of his birth, a dark prophecy hung over him, foretelling that he would bring about the death of Odin during Ragnarok, the end of the world. As a pup, Fenrir was taken to Asgard by the gods, who hoped to keep him under control. But Fenrir grew rapidly, both in size and strength, and soon the gods realized that he would be too powerful to manage. They decided to bind him with chains, each one stronger than the last. But Fenrir broke them all, his might proving too great for any earthly bond. The gods, in their desperation, turned to the dwarves, master craftsmen, to create a chain that could hold Fenrir. This chain, called Gleipnir, was made from 6 magical ingredients: the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish, the spit of a bird, and the sinews of a bear. Though it appeared delicate, Gleipnir was unbreakable. To trick Fenrir into allowing himself to be bound, the gods promised him that if he could not break free, they would release him. Fenrir, suspicious, agreed on the condition that one of the gods place their hand in his mouth as a token of good faith. Tyr, the brave god of war and justice, volunteered, knowing the risk. When Fenrir found himself unable to break Gleipnir, he bit off Tyr's hand in rage and betrayal. Bound by the unyielding chain, Fenrir's fury and sorrow grew, a powerful force waiting to be unleashed. Fenrir's significance in the pantheon is profound. He is a symbol of inevitable fate, the dark side of prophecy that even gods cannot escape. His story is one of fear and power, of the desperate measures taken to control what cannot be controlled. Fenrir represents the wild, untamed forces of nature and the cosmos, reminding us that not everything can be subdued by might or magic. In the shadows of Asgard, Fenrir waits, his heart filled with a sorrowful rage. He is both a victim of his destiny and a harbinger of the gods' doom. His story is a haunting melody in the grand symphony of Norse mythology, a reminder that even in a world of gods and heroes, there are forces too wild to tame, and prophecies too powerful to avoid. As Ragnarok looms, the gods know that Fenrir's day of reckoning will come, and with it, the world as they know it will be forever changed. In the heart of the ancient world, where magic and mystery intertwined with the everyday, a prophecy was whispered among the gods. It spoke of a creature so powerful and wild that even the mightiest deities would tremble in fear. This creature was Fenrir, the great wolf, whose birth was destined to change the course of the cosmos. Fenrir's story begins with his parents, Loki and Angrboda. Loki, the trickster god, was known for his cleverness and mischief. He often walked a fine line between helping and harming the gods of Asgard. Despite his complex nature, Loki was charming and persuasive, traits that led him to the giantess Angrboda. Angrboda, whose name means the one who brings grief, was a formidable figure herself, living in the land of giants, Jotunheim. Her strength and mystique drew Loki to her, and together, they formed an unusual but powerful union. From this union came 3 children, each more fearsome than the last. The first was Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, destined to grow so large that he would encircle the world and grasp his own tail. The second was Hel, a being of stark contrast, with half of her body living and beautiful, and the other half decayed and dead. She was fated to rule over the realm of the dead, a somber queen presiding over those who did not find their way to Valhalla. But it was the third child, Fenrir, who would strike the greatest fear into the hearts of the gods. Born with eyes that glowed like molten gold and fur as black as the void, Fenrir's presence was both mesmerizing and terrifying. As a pup, he showed signs of immense strength and intelligence, qualities that only grew more pronounced as he rapidly matured. The gods of Asgard were not blind to the dangers Fenrir posed. The prophecy surrounding his birth foretold that he would be a key player in Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world, where he would break free from his bonds and wreak havoc, ultimately killing Odin, the All-Father. This knowledge hung like a dark cloud over Asgard, and the gods knew they had to act swiftly to prevent the prophecy from coming true. Loki, despite his own mischievous nature, felt a complex mix of pride and sorrow for his son. He knew that Fenrir's fate was sealed, and that his own actions had set these events into motion. Angrboda, on the other hand, saw her children as powerful beings who could challenge the dominance of the gods, a sentiment that filled her with both pride and defiance. As Fenrir grew, so did the gods' unease. They watched as he played with his siblings, his strength surpassing even the wildest expectations. Jormungandr and Hel, each terrifying in their own right, were overshadowed by their brother's sheer power and potential for destruction. Fenrir's playful growls shook the earth, and his leaps seemed to challenge the very sky. The gods decided that Fenrir could not be allowed to roam free. They devised a plan to bind him, knowing that any ordinary chain would be insufficient. They first crafted a chain called lading, forged with the strongest iron. When they presented it to Fenrir, they masked their intentions with a game, challenging him to break free. Fenrir, ever confident, agreed and shattered lading with ease. Undeterred, the gods created a second chain, Dromi, even stronger than the first. Again, they approached Fenrir with their challenge, and again, he broke free, his power growing with each test. The gods were growing desperate, their fear mounting with each failed attempt. Finally, they sought the help of the dwarves, master smiths who could craft the impossible. The dwarves created Gleipnir, a chain unlike any other. It was made from 6 magical ingredients: the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish, the spit of a bird, and the sinews of a bear. Though it appeared delicate, Gleipnir was imbued with enchantments that made it unbreakable. When the gods presented Gleipnir to Fenrir, he sensed their treachery. He agreed to the challenge only if one of the gods would place their hand in his mouth as a sign of trust. Tyr, the god of war and justice, stepped forward, knowing the sacrifice he was about to make. As Fenrir struggled against Gleipnir and realized he had been deceived, he bit down, severing Tyr's hand in a moment of rage and betrayal. Bound by Gleipnir, Fenrir's fate was sealed. His howls of fury echoed through the lands, a haunting reminder of the prophecy that still loomed over the gods. Loki's heart ached for his son, torn between his role as a trickster and the pain of a father. Angrboda, in the distant shadows of Jotunheim, felt the sorrow of a mother who knew her child's destiny was written in stone. Fenrir's siblings, Jormungandr and Hel, continued to play their parts in the unfolding saga. Jormungandr grew ever larger, his coils encircling the world, while Hel ruled over the dead with a quiet, solemn strength. Each of Loki and Angrboda's children carried the weight of their birthright, their destinies intertwined with the fate of the gods. In the silence of his imprisonment, Fenrir's golden eyes burned with a fierce resolve. He knew that his time would come, that the prophecy would unfold as foretold. The great wolf awaited the day when he would break free and fulfill the destiny that had been woven into the very fabric of his being. And so, the story of Fenrir continued, a tale of power, prophecy, and the unbreakable bonds of fate. In the golden halls of Asgard, where gods roamed and the air was thick with magic, Fenrir grew from a curious pup into a formidable presence. His early years were marked by both wonder and unease. Brought to Asgard by the gods, he was unlike any other creature. His eyes, glowing like embers, held a mixture of innocence and latent power that left the gods both fascinated and fearful. As a young wolf, Fenrir explored Asgard with boundless curiosity. He played in the fields of Idavol, his laughter echoing through the mountains and valleys. The gods watched him closely, their eyes always filled with a mix of awe and apprehension. Fenrir's playful growls would sometimes shake the earth, hinting at the tremendous power that lay within him. His fur, dark as the night, seemed to absorb the very light around him, making him stand out even more in the radiant realm of the gods. Despite the prophecy that hung over his head, Fenrir was a joyful and mischievous creature. He would chase after the golden apples of Idun, his speed unmatched by any other beast. He had a special fondness for Tyr, the god of war, who was the only one brave enough to approach him without fear. Tyr would often bring Fenrir food, and the two would share quiet moments together, a fragile bond forming between them. But as Fenrir grew, so did his strength and size. The once cute pup became a massive wolf, his presence impossible to ignore. The gods could not help but notice the signs of his potential danger. His games became more intense, his playful nips turning into powerful bites that could crush bones. The gods whispered among themselves, their concern growing with each passing day. One day, as Fenrir frolicked near the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge that connected Asgard to the other realms, he encountered Heimdall, the ever-watchful guardian. Heimdall, with his keen senses, had always been wary of Fenrir. The two locked eyes, and for a moment, there was a tense silence. Fenrir's eyes glowed brighter, and a low growl rumbled from deep within him. Heimdall stood his ground, his hand on his sword, ready for any sudden movement. The moment passed, but it left a lingering tension in the air, a reminder of the prophecy that loomed over them all. The gods held council meetings to discuss Fenrir's growing power. Odin, the All-Father, often sat in silent contemplation, his one eye filled with concern. He knew that Fenrir was destined to play a significant role in the end times, but he also saw the innocence in the young wolf's eyes. Balancing compassion with the need for precaution was a heavy burden for the wise god. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Asgard, Fenrir engaged in a playful bout with Thor. The mighty god of thunder had always been fond of challenges, and wrestling with Fenrir seemed like a harmless game at first. But as they tussled, Fenrir's strength became evident. With a powerful push, he sent Thor sprawling to the ground. The thunder god laughed it off, but the other gods watched with wide eyes, recognizing the sheer force that Fenrir had just displayed. The growing concern among the gods was not lost on Fenrir. He could sense the tension, the way their eyes followed him with a mix of fear and pity. It made him restless, his heart aching with confusion. He found solace in the company of his siblings, Jormungandr and Hel, who understood the burden of their shared destiny. Together, they would sit by the shores of Asgard, gazing at the stars and sharing stories of their dreams and fears. As the days turned into years, Fenrir's power continued to grow. The gods could no longer ignore the potential danger he posed. They saw how he could topple trees with a single swipe of his paw, how his howl could send shivers down the spine of even the bravest warrior. Fenrir's playful nature began to wane, replaced by a growing awareness of his own strength and the unease it caused among those around him. One night, under the light of a full moon, Fenrir roamed the forests of Asgard alone. His mind was filled with a storm of emotions. He thought of Tyr, who had always shown him kindness, and the other gods who now looked at him with suspicion. He let out a mournful howl, a sound that resonated through the very soul of Asgard. It was a cry of confusion, of a creature torn between his nature and the fate imposed upon him. The gods, hearing his cry, knew that they had to act. Fenrir's early years had been a time of joy and discovery, but they were also a prelude to the prophecy that could not be ignored. Fenrir himself sensed the change in the air, the silent decision that had been made. The days of carefree play were over, and a new chapter in his life was about to begin. As Fenrir lay down to rest that night, he felt a heaviness in his heart. He knew that the gods were planning something, that the bond he shared with them was fraying. Yet, there was a small part of him that still longed for those early days of innocence and laughter, for the times when he was just a young wolf, growing up in the golden halls of Asgard. In the heart of Asgard, a sense of dread began to settle over the golden halls and lush fields. The gods, once carefree and mighty, now whispered among themselves, their faces etched with worry. The source of their fear was the great wolf Fenrir, whose strength and potential for destruction grew more apparent with each passing day. The joyful pup they had once known had become a force of nature, and the gods could no longer ignore the prophecy that hung over him like a dark cloud. The prophecy spoke of Ragnarok, the end of the world, where fire and ice would clash, and the gods themselves would fall. At the center of this cataclysmic event was Fenrir, destined to break free from his bonds and wreak havoc upon the world. He would face Odin, the All-Father, and bring about his doom. The thought of this future filled the gods with an icy dread, and their once proud hearts were now heavy with the weight of inevitable fate. Odin, the wise and all-seeing, sat in his grand hall, his one eye filled with sorrow and contemplation. He had seen many futures, and the vision of Fenrir's role in Ragnarok was one he could not escape. The other gods gathered around him, their faces mirrors of his own concern. Thor, the thunder god, clenched his mighty fists, his usual bravado replaced with a grim determination. Frigg, the queen of Asgard, wept silently, her motherly heart breaking for the young wolf she had once cradled. The fear among the gods was palpable. They had watched Fenrir grow, his power and size increasing at an alarming rate. His once playful nips had become dangerous bites, and his growls now echoed with a menacing power. The gods knew they had to act, but the thought of harming Fenrir pained them deeply. He was not just a beast, he was Loki's son, and they had seen the innocent spark in his eyes. As the gods deliberated, Loki sat apart, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. He loved his son, but he also knew the danger Fenrir posed. The trickster god, known for his cunning and deceit, now faced a dilemma that even he struggled to navigate. His heart ached for Fenrir, who was unaware of the full extent of the fear he inspired. Tyr, the brave god of war and justice, stood up, his face resolute. He had always been closest to Fenrir, feeding him and playing with him when others kept their distance. But Tyr also understood the gravity of the prophecy. He spoke with a heavy heart, suggesting that they find a way to bind Fenrir, not out of malice, but out of necessity. The gods listened, their hearts heavy with the decision they had to make. The prophecies of Ragnarok haunted their every thought. They saw visions of fire and chaos, of battles that would end in despair. They saw Fenrir, unbound and furious, tearing through the ranks of the gods, his eyes blazing with a mixture of rage and sorrow. The gods knew that if they did not act, they were sealing their own doom. Yet, the thought of binding Fenrir, of betraying the trust of the young wolf, tore at their very souls. The decision was made with heavy hearts. The gods would bind Fenrir, not out of cruelty, but out of a desperate need to prevent the prophecy from coming true. They crafted chains of the strongest iron, but they knew that no ordinary bonds could hold the great wolf. Their first attempts were met with failure, as Fenrir broke through each chain with ease, his strength surpassing even their wildest fears. Finally, they turned to the dwarves, the master craftsmen of the 9 worlds. The dwarves created a chain called Gleipnir, made from 6 magical ingredients: the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the breath of a fish, the spit of a bird, and the sinews of a bear. Though it appeared delicate, Gleipnir was imbued with unbreakable magic. The gods approached Fenrir with Gleipnir, their hearts heavy with the betrayal they were about to commit. Fenrir, sensing their unease, agreed to be bound only if one of the gods placed their hand in his mouth as a sign of trust. Tyr, knowing the risk, bravely stepped forward. As Gleipnir tightened around Fenrir, the great wolf realized he had been tricked. In a moment of rage and sorrow, he bit down, severing Tyr's hand. The gods watched in silence, their hearts breaking at the sight of Fenrir's fury and pain. Bound by Gleipnir, Fenrir howled, a sound that echoed through the realms, filled with anguish and betrayal. The gods knew they had done what was necessary, but it did not ease their sorrow. They had bound the great wolf, but in doing so, they had also bound their own hearts with chains of guilt and regret. Fenrir's eyes, once filled with innocence, now burned with a sorrowful rage. He lay bound, his spirit unbroken but his heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. The gods, too, felt the weight of their decision, knowing that they had set the stage for the very prophecy they sought to prevent. In the silence of Asgard, the gods mourned not just for Fenrir, but for the loss of innocence and the shadow of fate that loomed over them all. In the hushed silence of Asgard, the gods gathered with heavy hearts and a growing sense of urgency. The whispers of prophecy had become roars in their minds, and the danger Fenrir posed was no longer a distant threat but an imminent reality. Their first attempt to bind him began with the crafting of Lading, a chain forged with hope and desperation. The dwarves, known for their unparalleled skill in smithing, were summoned to create this chain. In their subterranean forges, where the heat of the earth's core met their precise craftsmanship, Lading was born. It was made from the strongest iron, imbued with ancient runes and powerful enchantments. Each link of the chain was hammered with a mix of fear and determination, the clang of metal echoing like a heartbeat through the cavernous halls. The gods watched as the dwarves worked, their faces etched with concern, knowing that this chain might be their only chance to alter the grim fate foretold. When Lading was completed, it shone with a fierce brilliance, its surface reflecting the hopes of the gods. They believed in its strength, believing it could contain Fenrir's growing power. But beneath their confidence lay a shadow of doubt, a fear that even this mighty chain would not be enough. The day came when the gods approached Fenrir with Lading. They masked their intentions with playful smiles, presenting the binding as a game. "Show us your strength," they said, their voices trembling ever so slightly. Fenrir, with his keen instincts, sensed the underlying tension but agreed to the challenge, his eyes gleaming with curiosity and pride. Tyr, who had always been closest to Fenrir, stood by, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. He watched as the gods wrapped Lading around Fenrir, each link clicking into place with a finality that echoed in the hearts of all present. The great wolf sat still, his eyes fixed on Tyr, searching for reassurance in the familiar face of his friend. Once the chain was secure, Fenrir began to test its strength. At first, he moved slowly, almost cautiously, as if unsure of his own power. The gods held their breath, their eyes wide with anticipation and fear. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, Fenrir pulled against Lading. The ground trembled beneath him, the air filled with the sound of straining metal. His muscles rippled with raw power, and the chain groaned under the pressure. For a moment, it seemed as if Lading might hold. But then, with a resounding snap, the chain shattered, its pieces flying in all directions like shards of a broken dream. Fenrir stood triumphant, his eyes blazing with both pride and a hint of defiance. The gods watched in stunned silence, their hopes dashed, their fears magnified. Fenrir's resistance had been absolute, his strength proving greater than the enchantments that bound him. The gods saw in that moment the true power of the beast they had tried to contain. The realization struck them hard. Lading, crafted with the best of their intentions and the skill of the dwarves, was no match for the force of Fenrir's will. As Fenrir shook off the remnants of the chain, he looked to Tyr, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and betrayal. He could sense the god's fear and mistrust, and it wounded him deeply. Tyr, feeling the weight of that gaze, stepped forward, placing a hand on Fenrir's massive head. "We must try again," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. "It is for the safety of all." Fenrir growled softly, the sound vibrating through Tyr's very bones. The bond between them, once strong, now felt strained and fragile. The great wolf turned away, retreating to the shadows, leaving the gods to ponder their next move. The breaking of Lading was not just a physical defeat, it was a crushing blow to the gods' morale. They had witnessed the sheer might of Fenrir, felt the ground quake beneath his power, and heard the chains cry as it succumbed to his strength. The realization that their first attempt had failed left them with a chilling fear of what the future might hold. In the quiet aftermath, the gods gathered once more, their faces pale with the stark reality of their situation. They knew they could not give up, but the path ahead seemed more daunting than ever. Odin's voice, filled with a somber resolve, broke the silence. "We must find a stronger binding," he said, his eye glinting with a mix of determination and sorrow. The gods nodded, their spirits heavy but their resolve unbroken. They would seek out a new solution, one that could hold the mighty Fenrir and perhaps stave off the doom that loomed ever closer. The memory of Lading's failure would haunt them, but it would also drive them forward, pushing them to find a way to protect their world from the beast they both loved and feared. In the depths of Asgard, the echoes of that failed attempt lingered, a constant reminder of the challenge they faced. Fenrir's strength had been tested, and the gods had glimpsed the true extent of his power. The future was uncertain, the path ahead fraught with danger and difficult choices. But in their hearts, the gods knew they could not afford to falter. For the sake of their world, and for the hope of a different fate, they would forge on, seeking a way to bind the unbindable, to contain the force of nature that was Fenrir. In the stillness of Asgard, after the crushing failure of Lading, the gods felt an urgency like never before. Fear gnawed at their hearts as they faced the reality of Fenrir's unstoppable strength. They needed a stronger chain, one that could hold the mighty wolf and stave off the ominous prophecy of Ragnarok. Thus, they set about creating Dromi, a chain that they hoped would be the answer to their prayers. The dwarves were once again summoned to the forges, their skilled hands tasked with a seemingly impossible mission. Deep within the earth, where the fires roared and the hammers sang, Dromi began to take shape. The chain was forged from the sturdiest iron, each link imbued with powerful enchantments and ancient runes. Every strike of the hammer echoed with the gods' desperation, every spark a glimmer of their fading hope. When Dromi was finally complete, it radiated a formidable power. The gods gathered around, their eyes reflecting the eerie light of the chain. They knew this chain had to succeed where Lading had failed. There was no other option. Their hearts were heavy with a mix of hope and dread as they approached Fenrir once more, masking their true intentions behind forced smiles and playful words. "Show us your strength," they urged, presenting the binding as a game. Fenrir, sensing their unease yet trusting the gods he had known since his birth, agreed to the challenge. His massive form loomed over them, a mix of curiosity and pride in his eyes. Tyr, ever loyal and brave, stood close by, his heart aching with the knowledge of what was to come. As the gods wrapped Dromi around Fenrir, their hands trembled with the gravity of their task. The chain clicked into place, each link tightening around the great wolf. Fenrir remained still, his gaze fixed on Tyr, searching for reassurance in his friend's familiar face. Tyr's eyes were filled with a mix of sorrow and determination, a silent promise that this was for the greater good. Once Dromi was securely fastened, Fenrir began to test its strength. At first, he moved slowly, cautiously, as if testing the limits of his own power. The gods held their breath, hope and fear intertwined in their hearts. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, Fenrir pulled against Dromi. The ground trembled beneath him, the air thick with tension as the chain strained under the pressure. For a moment, it seemed as though Dromi might hold. The gods dared to hope, their eyes wide with anticipation. But then, with a deafening roar, Fenrir's strength proved too much. Dromi shattered into pieces, the enchanted links flying in all directions like fragments of shattered dreams. Fenrir stood triumphant, his eyes blazing with a mixture of pride and a growing sense of betrayal. The gods watched in stunned silence, their hopes dashed once more. Fenrir's resistance had been absolute, his power even greater than they had feared. The realization struck them hard. Dromi, despite all their efforts, was no match for Fenrir's might. The ground lay littered with the remnants of their second attempt, a stark reminder of their failure. As Fenrir shook off the broken chain, he turned his gaze to Tyr, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and hurt. He could sense the fear and mistrust of the gods, and it wounded him deeply. Tyr, feeling the weight of Fenrir's gaze, stepped forward, placing a hand on the great wolf's head. "We must try again," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. "It is for the safety of all." Fenrir growled softly, the sound reverberating through Tyr's very bones. The bond between them, once strong, now felt strained and fragile. The great wolf turned away, retreating to the shadows, leaving the gods to ponder their next move. The breaking of Dromi was not just a physical defeat, it was a crushing blow to the gods' morale. They had witnessed the sheer might of Fenrir, felt the ground quake beneath his power, and heard the chains cry as it succumbed to his strength. The realization that their second attempt had failed left them with a chilling fear of what the future might hold. In the quiet aftermath, the gods gathered once more, their faces pale with the stark reality of their situation. They knew they could not give up, but the path ahead seemed more daunting than ever. Odin's voice, filled with a somber resolve, broke the silence. "We must find a stronger binding," he said, his eye glinting with a mix of determination and sorrow. The gods nodded, their spirits heavy but their resolve unbroken. They would seek out a new solution, one that could hold the mighty Fenrir and perhaps stave off the doom that loomed ever closer. The memory of Dromi's failure would haunt them, but it would also drive them forward, pushing them to find a way to protect their world from the beast they both loved and feared. In the depths of Asgard, the echoes of that failed attempt lingered, a constant reminder of the challenge they faced. Fenrir's strength had been tested, and the gods had glimpsed the true extent of his power. The future was uncertain, the path ahead fraught with danger and difficult choices. But in their hearts, the gods knew they could not afford to falter. For the sake of their world, and for the hope of a different fate, they would forge on, seeking a way to bind the unbindable, to contain the force of nature that was Fenrir. In the hushed halls of Asgard, the gods were consumed by a profound dread. Twice they had tried to bind Fenrir, and twice they had failed. The whispers of the prophecies were growing louder, the specter of Ragnarok looming ever closer. The gods knew that one final attempt was all they had left, and this time, failure was not an option. In their desperation, they turned to the dwarves once more, but with a new plan, to craft a chain unlike any other, one woven from elements of pure magic. This chain would be named Gleipnir. Its creation required ingredients so rare and extraordinary that their very existence was almost mythical. The dwarves set to work, gathering the most impossible items, the sound of a cat's footsteps, the beard of a woman, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. Each component, impossible to find, was magically conjured with great effort and skill. The gods watched with bated breath as the dwarves wove these enchanted elements together, their hands moving with a precision and grace born of ancient knowledge and dire necessity. When Gleipnir was finally complete, it looked deceptively delicate. It was a silken ribbon, smooth and supple, and seemingly fragile. But the gods knew better. They could feel the raw power coursing through it, a subtle strength that belied its appearance. With Gleipnir in their possession, they prepared for their final confrontation with Fenrir, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they must do. The gods approached Fenrir, hiding their true intentions behind masks of playful challenge. "Can you break this?" they asked, showing him the silken ribbon. Fenrir, suspicious but intrigued by the strange new binding, agreed to the test. However, he sensed deceit in the air and demanded a token of trust. He insisted that one of the gods place a hand in his mouth as a gesture of good faith, to ensure that they would release him if he could not break free. Tyr, the bravest and most loyal of the gods, stepped forward. He had always been close to Fenrir, and his heart ached with the betrayal he knew he must commit. Without hesitation, he placed his hand in Fenrir's massive jaws. Fenrir's eyes met Tyr's, searching for any hint of treachery. In those eyes, Tyr saw both the innocence of a creature wronged and the fierce power of a beast destined to bring about the end of the world. The gods wrapped Gleipnir around Fenrir, each movement filled with a tense anticipation. The ribbon seemed to glow with an ethereal light, its magical properties pulsing gently. Once the binding was secure, Fenrir began to struggle. At first, his movements were slow, almost tentative, as if he could not believe such a delicate thing could hold him. But as he pulled harder, the truth became clear. Gleipnir held fast. The air grew thick with Fenrir's anger and fear. He thrashed and pulled, his mighty form straining against the binding. The ground trembled beneath him, the very air vibrating with his roars. But Gleipnir did not yield. The magical ribbon tightened with each movement, its enchanted essence absorbing and countering Fenrir's immense strength. Realization dawned in Fenrir's eyes, a mix of rage and betrayal. He snapped his jaws shut in a final act of defiance, knowing full well what it would cost. Tyr, who had willingly made the ultimate sacrifice, felt the searing pain as Fenrir's teeth clamped down, severing his hand. Yet he did not cry out. Instead, he looked into Fenrir's eyes, offering a silent apology and a prayer for understanding. Bound by Gleipnir, Fenrir was finally subdued. The gods, though relieved, could not shake the sorrow that filled the air. They had achieved their goal, but at a great cost. The sight of Tyr's maimed arm was a stark reminder of the sacrifice made, a testament to the lengths they had gone to protect their world. Fenrir, now bound and defeated, lay on the ground, his eyes burning with a mix of fury and sorrow. He had trusted the gods, and that trust had been shattered. He knew he was destined to bring about Ragnarok, but the pain of betrayal cut deeper than any prophecy. Tyr, the one god who had always shown him kindness, had paid the price for the god's deception. The binding of Fenrir with Gleipnir marked a turning point in the tale of Asgard. The gods had bought themselves time, but at a great moral and emotional cost. The future was still uncertain, the prophecies still hanging over them like a dark cloud. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. In the silent aftermath, the gods withdrew, leaving Fenrir bound and raging against his fate. Tyr stood apart, his missing hand a constant reminder of the sacrifice he had made. The bond between him and Fenrir, once strong and pure, was now forever tainted by the gods' necessary deceit. As the days passed, the gods tried to return to their normal lives, but the shadow of Gleipnir and the sacrifice of Tyr loomed large. They had captured Fenrir, but the cost of that victory was etched into their hearts and minds. The binding of Fenrir with Gleipnir was a bittersweet triumph, a moment of relief tainted by the pain of betrayal and loss. In the quiet aftermath of Gleipnir's binding, a heavy silence fell over Asgard. Fenrir, the mighty wolf, lay restrained by the silken ribbon, his once fierce eyes now clouded with a mix of rage and sorrow. The gods had won, but the cost of their victory was steep, leaving a scar that would never fully heal. Life bound in Gleipnir was a torment for Fenrir. The magical chain, deceptively delicate, held him fast, rendering his immense strength useless. He struggled daily against his bonds, muscles straining, heart pounding with frustration and anger. Each futile attempt only tightened the enchanted ribbon, a cruel reminder of his captivity. The once proud and powerful creature was now reduced to a prisoner, his spirit caged as much as his body. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Fenrir's anger grew. His howls of fury echoed through Asgard, a haunting sound that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest gods. The betrayal by those he had trusted, especially by Tyr, whom he had considered a friend, festered within him like a wound that refused to heal. His heart hardened, and the seeds of hatred took root, nourished by the bitter taste of treachery. Tyr, the god who had sacrificed his hand to bind Fenrir, was burdened by a deep sense of guilt and sorrow. He visited Fenrir often, standing at the edge of the wolf's prison, his heart heavy with remorse. "I am sorry, my friend," Tyr would whisper, his voice breaking. But Fenrir's eyes, once filled with trust and warmth, now blazed with a cold fury. The bond they had shared was shattered, replaced by a chasm of pain and betrayal. Fenrir's imprisonment became a constant source of tension in Asgard. The gods, while relieved that the great wolf was contained, could not ignore the palpable aura of anger that radiated from his prison. They knew the prophecy of Ragnarok foretold that Fenrir would break free one day, and the fear of that inevitable future weighed heavily on their hearts. They had bought themselves time, but at the cost of creating an enemy who now harbored a deep and consuming hatred for them. Each visit from Tyr was an emotional struggle. The god of courage would approach Fenrir with a mixture of hope and dread, praying for some sign of forgiveness, some glimmer of the friendship they once shared. But Fenrir's response was always the same, a low growl, eyes burning with unspoken pain. The wolf's heart was filled with a sorrow so profound that it overshadowed any possibility of reconciliation. The other gods watched these interactions from a distance, their hearts heavy with their own guilt and regret. They had all played a part in Fenrir's betrayal, and they could see the toll it took on Tyr. Odin, the All-Father, often stood in silence, his single eye filled with a mix of resolve and sorrow. He knew the importance of Fenrir's binding, but he also understood the emotional price they had all paid. The seasons changed, and Asgard moved forward, but the memory of Fenrir's binding remained fresh in their minds. The gods went about their duties, but the howls of the imprisoned wolf were a constant reminder of the fragile peace they had secured. Fenrir's hatred grew with each passing day, his thoughts consumed by visions of vengeance and retribution. In his moments of solitude, Tyr often reflected on the bond he had once shared with Fenrir. He remembered the playful moments, the mutual respect and trust. Now, all of that was gone, replaced by a cold, unyielding wall of anger and resentment. Tyr's heart ached with the loss, but he remained resolute in his belief that they had done what was necessary for the safety of Asgard. Yet, in the quiet corners of his mind, doubt lingered. Was there another way? Could they have found a solution that did not involve betrayal and sacrifice? These questions haunted Tyr, but he knew there was no turning back. The path they had chosen was set, and all they could do now was face the consequences of their actions. Fenrir, bound by Gleipnir, continued to endure his imprisonment with a growing sense of fury. The magical chain held him fast, but it could not contain the burning rage within him. His thoughts were filled with dark visions of breaking free, of exacting vengeance on those who had wronged him. The prophecy of Ragnarok loomed large in his mind, a beacon of hope in his otherwise bleak existence. As the years passed, Fenrir's anger became a living thing, feeding off his pain and betrayal. The once majestic wolf was now a shadow of his former self, his heart hardened by the cruel hand of fate. The gods watched, their own hearts heavy with the knowledge of what they had done. They had bound Fenrir to save their world, but in doing so, they had created a being consumed by hatred and vengeance. Tyr's visits grew less frequent, each one a painful reminder of the bond that was lost. The god of courage carried the weight of his sacrifice like a heavy cloak, his missing hand a constant reminder of the price he had paid. He knew that Fenrir's hatred would never fade, and that the wolf's desire for vengeance would one day come to fruition. In the quiet moments of Asgard, the gods would often pause and listen to the distant howls of Fenrir, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. They had secured a temporary peace, but the cost was a bitter one. Fenrir's imprisonment was a testament to their desperation, a reminder that even the gods were not immune to the consequences of their actions. And so, Fenrir remained bound, his life a relentless cycle of anger and sorrow. The prophecy of Ragnarok still hung over Asgard like a dark cloud, a reminder that one day, the wolf would break free. The gods knew that they had only delayed the inevitable, and that the day of reckoning would come. Fenrir's hatred, like a slow-burning fire, continued to grow, fueled by the betrayal he had suffered. In the end, the binding of Fenrir was not just a physical act, but an emotional and spiritual one as well. It was a moment that defined the relationship between the gods and the great wolf, a turning point that set the stage for the events yet to come. The gods had secured their peace, but at a great cost, and the echoes of that decision would reverberate through the halls of Asgard for eternity. In the flickering firelight of ancient Viking halls, stories of gods and monsters were told with a reverence that echoed through the ages. Among these tales, one figure stood out, a symbol of raw power and inevitable fate, Fenrir. The mighty wolf, born of Loki and Angrboda, was not just a creature of legend but a profound symbol woven into the very fabric of Norse culture. Art and literature often depicted Fenrir with a mixture of awe and dread. The sight of the great wolf, with his enormous size and fierce eyes, captured the imagination of artists and storytellers alike. In ancient carvings and tapestries, Fenrir was shown in scenes of chaotic beauty, his form intertwined with the fate of the gods. These depictions were not merely artistic expressions, but a reflection of the deep cultural significance Fenrir held for the Norse people. In Viking culture, Fenrir represented the unstoppable force of fate and the inevitable cycle of life and death. His story was a reminder that even the gods were not immune to destiny's harsh grip. The prophecies foretold that Fenrir would break free at Ragnarok, the end of the world, to bring about the demise of Odin and herald a new era of chaos. This narrative was a powerful metaphor for the Vikings, who lived in a world of constant change and uncertainty. Fenrir's symbolism extended beyond his role in the end times. He embodied the untamed wilderness, the primal force of nature that the Vikings both revered and feared. Living in harsh, unpredictable environments, the Norse people saw in Fenrir the raw, unbridled power of the world around them. His strength and ferocity were traits to be respected, reflecting the harsh realities of their own lives. In literature, Fenrir's story was told with a blend of admiration and caution. Sagas and poems recounted his birth, his interactions with the gods, and his eventual binding with Gleipnir. These stories were more than just entertainment. They were lessons in resilience and the acceptance of fate. Fenrir's tale was a poignant reminder that some forces, no matter how fearsome, were an integral part of the world's balance. The story of Fenrir was also a reflection of the complex relationship between the Vikings and their deities. The gods were not infallible, they made mistakes and faced consequences. The binding of Fenrir, while necessary for the gods' survival, was a tragic act of betrayal. This aspect of the story resonated deeply with the Norse people, who understood the complexities of loyalty and sacrifice. The gods' actions were a mirror of their own struggles, highlighting the moral and ethical dilemmas they faced in their lives. Fenrir's presence in Viking society was not just confined to myths and stories. He was a symbol of strength and courage, traits highly valued in the warrior culture of the Vikings. Warriors would invoke Fenrir's name to inspire fearlessness and tenacity in battle. The image of the great wolf, with his unyielding spirit, served as a powerful emblem of the warrior ethos, embodying the relentless pursuit of honor and glory. Even in everyday life, Fenrir's influence could be felt. Amulets and charms bearing his likeness were worn for protection and strength. These talismans were believed to channel the wolf's power, offering a sense of security in an uncertain world. The very act of wearing such symbols was a testament to the deep connection the Norse people felt with the legends of their gods and monsters. The emotional resonance of Fenrir's story was profound. It touched on themes of loyalty, betrayal, and the inexorable march of fate. For the Norse, these were not just abstract concepts, but real, tangible experiences. The story of Fenrir, bound by the gods yet destined to bring about their end, was a powerful reminder of the cycles of life, death, and rebirth that defined their existence. As the flames flickered and the stories of Fenrir were told, a sense of shared identity and understanding emerged. The Norse people saw in the great wolf a reflection of their own struggles and triumphs. Fenrir was more than just a figure of myth, he was a symbol of their resilience and their acceptance of the world's harsh realities. His story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The tale of Fenrir, with its blend of awe, fear, and admiration, was a cornerstone of Norse culture. It was a narrative that spoke to the heart of what it meant to be a Viking, living in a world where the lines between myth and reality were often blurred. Fenrir's legacy, captured in art, literature, and the very fabric of Viking society, was a powerful reminder of the enduring power of stories and the profound impact they have on our lives. The winds of change whispered through the ancient forests and across the frozen fjords, carrying with them a sense of unease. The signs of Ragnarok were becoming undeniable, and the world held its breath in anticipation of the cataclysm to come. In Asgard, the gods felt the weight of prophecy pressing down upon them, while in his distant prison, Fenrir's anticipation grew. The first harbinger of Ragnarok was the Fimbulwinter, a relentless and merciless winter that lasted 3 years without respite. Snow fell endlessly, covering the land in a blanket of white, and the bitter cold seeped into the bones of all who dwelled in the 9 realms. Crops withered, and the people despaired as the sun and moon grew dim, their light and warmth fading. The world seemed to be caught in an eternal twilight, a prelude to the darkness that was to come. As the Fimbul winter raged on, the bonds of kinship and loyalty began to unravel. Brothers turned against brothers, and the once strong ties of family and friendship dissolved into chaos. Civilizations crumbled under the strain of mistrust and betrayal, and the fabric of society was torn asunder. These events were foretold in ancient prophecies, and the seers spoke of omens that heralded the end of days. One such omen was the howling of the great wolves, Skoll and Hati, who pursued the sun and moon across the sky. On the day they finally caught their prey, the world would be plunged into darkness, signaling the beginning of the end. The gods watched the skies with growing dread, knowing that this moment would mark the start of their final battle. Amidst these signs, Fenrir's anticipation grew. Bound in the unbreakable chains of Gleipnir, he sensed the shifting tides of fate. His hatred for the gods burned hotter than ever, fueled by the injustices he had suffered and the betrayal he could never forgive. The wolf's heart pounded with a fierce, relentless rhythm, each beat a drum signaling the approach of his destined role in the great upheaval. Fenrir's mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions as he prepared for the inevitable. He remembered the prophecies that foretold his part in Ragnarok, the day when he would break free from his bonds and unleash his wrath upon the world. The visions of destruction and vengeance played out in his mind, each one more vivid than the last. He saw himself tearing through the ranks of the gods, his powerful jaws closing around the neck of Odin, the All-Father, ending his reign. In the depths of his captivity, Fenrir could feel the magic of Gleipnir weakening. The chain, crafted from impossible ingredients, had held him for centuries, but now, the very fabric of reality seemed to strain against its bindings. The wolf tested his strength against the chain, feeling it give ever so slightly, and he knew that the time was drawing near. His muscles tensed with anticipation, his eyes burning with the promise of vengeance. The gods, aware of the prophecies, also felt the tension mounting. They gathered in council, their faces etched with worry and determination. Odin, with his one eye that saw more than most, spoke of the coming doom and the need to prepare for the final battle. The Valkyries readied themselves, their armor gleaming, their hearts steeled for the fight. Even as they prepared for war, a sense of sorrow pervaded the air, for they knew that many would not survive the coming storm. The earth itself seemed to tremble in anticipation. Mountains crumbled, and the seas churned with a restless fury. The Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, stirred in the depths of the ocean, its colossal form winding and unwinding as it sensed the approach of its fated time. Fenrir's sibling, Hel, the ruler of the underworld, gathered her legions of the dead, preparing to march alongside her brothers in the final conflict. As the omens continued to unfold, Fenrir's resolve hardened. His thoughts turned to Tyr, the god who had sacrificed his hand to bind him. Once a figure of respect and, perhaps, affection, Tyr now symbolized the treachery of the gods. Fenrir's heart, already hardened by years of captivity, beat with a cold and unyielding resolve. He would show them all the true meaning of power and vengeance. The final sign came when the earth shook with a violence that split mountains and toppled cities. The sky darkened as the sun and moon were swallowed by Skoll and Hati, plunging the world into a night without end. The gods, knowing that their time had come, took up their arms and prepared to face their doom. Amidst the chaos, Fenrir felt the last of Gleipnir's magic give way. With a triumphant roar that echoed through the 9 realms, Fenrir snapped the silken chain that had held him for so long. His freedom was a moment of exultation and fury, his massive form standing tall against the backdrop of a world on the brink of destruction. The time for retribution had come, and he was ready to fulfill his role in the prophecy. Fenrir's escape was met with both terror and awe. The gods, seeing the wolf unbound, knew that the final battle was upon them. Odin, resolute and unyielding, prepared to face his destiny. The warriors of Valhalla, led by their Valkyrie guides, stood ready to defend their realm, knowing that the fight would be their last. Fenrir, driven by years of pent-up rage and a desire for vengeance, moved with a terrifying grace. His eyes, burning with a fierce light, scanned the battlefield, seeking out the one who had wronged him most. His mind was clear, his purpose singular, to bring about the end foretold by the seers, to see the downfall of the gods who had betrayed him. As the armies clashed and the world trembled, Fenrir's howl pierced the chaos, a sound of both wrath and sorrow. He charged into the fray, his powerful form unstoppable, his jaws snapping with a ferocity unmatched by any creature. The gods met him with all their might, but Fenrir's determination was unwavering. Each step he took was a step closer to fulfilling his destiny, a step closer to the end of the world. And so, amidst the fire and fury of Ragnarok, Fenrir's tale reached its climax. The prophecies had foretold his role, and he embraced it with a fervor born of pain and betrayal. The signs had been clear, the omens unmistakable, and now, the world bore witness to the wrath of the great wolf, unleashed at last. In the darkened stillness of the ancient world, a sudden crack shattered the air. It was the sound of fate breaking free, of destiny unleashed. The unbreakable chain Gleipnir, which had bound the mighty Fenrir for so long, finally gave way. The earth trembled, the skies darkened, and a deep, resonant roar echoed through the realms. Fenrir, the great wolf, was free. For centuries, Fenrir had been bound, trapped by the gods in a prison of deceit and magic. Gleipnir, crafted from the whispers of a cat's footfall, the roots of a mountain, and other impossible things, had held him fast. But nothing lasts forever, not even the gods' most cunning creations. As the world neared its end, the chain's magic began to falter, the threads of destiny pulling tighter and tighter until they snapped. Loki, Fenrir's father and the god of mischief, played a crucial role in his liberation. Though he had been imprisoned and punished by the gods for his own misdeeds, Loki's spirit remained unbroken. He had always been a master of chaos and unpredictability, and he watched with a knowing glint in his eye as the signs of Ragnarok unfolded. The end of the world was his opportunity to strike back, to overturn the order imposed by the gods. Loki's involvement in Fenrir's escape was subtle yet powerful. With his cunning, he had planted seeds of doubt and fear among the gods, weakening their resolve and vigilance. He whispered to the winds, coaxing the magic of Gleipnir to wane. As the world trembled under the weight of impending doom, Loki's influence seeped into the very fabric of reality, undermining the chains that bound his son. The moment of escape was one of pure, unbridled fury. Fenrir's muscles, honed by years of rage and frustration, bulged and strained against the weakening bonds. His eyes, burning with a fierce light, reflected the fire and chaos of the world around him. With a final, thunderous growl, he surged forward, snapping Gleipnir like a fragile thread. The earth shook with the force of his liberation, a testament to his immense power. As Fenrir broke free, his fury was unleashed upon the world. The pent-up rage of centuries poured out of him like a tidal wave. His howl, a sound of both triumph and vengeance, pierced the air, sending shivers down the spines of gods and men alike. He moved with a terrifying grace, each step shaking the ground, each breath a promise of destruction. The gods, realizing the gravity of their mistake, scrambled to respond. But it was too late. Fenrir's wrath was unstoppable. His jaws, capable of swallowing the sun, snapped at the air, a fearsome display of his power. The sky darkened further as he roared, his voice a harbinger of the chaos to come. Fenrir's fury was not just physical, it was a force of nature, a manifestation of the betrayal and pain he had endured. His mind, once tormented by the treachery of the gods, now focused with a singular purpose, vengeance. He remembered the day they had bound him, the lies and deceit they had used to trap him. His heart, cold and hardened by years of captivity, beat with the rhythm of retribution. As he roamed free, Fenrir sought out the gods who had wronged him. His eyes, sharp and piercing, scanned the battlefield for his first target. Odin, the All-Father, who had orchestrated his imprisonment, was the primary focus of his ire. Fenrir's blood boiled with the desire to confront the one who had bound him, to tear him apart and end his reign. The chaos of Ragnarok unfolded around him, but Fenrir remained undeterred. The end of the world was his playground, a stage set for his revenge. He tore through the ranks of the gods' armies, his powerful form a blur of fur and fangs. The cries of the fallen echoed in his ears, a symphony of destruction that fueled his rage. Amidst the chaos, Loki watched with a mixture of pride and sorrow. He had set the wheels in motion, but even he could not control the storm that was his son. Fenrir's liberation was both a victory and a tragedy, a fulfillment of prophecy and a testament to the relentless march of fate. Loki knew that the god's downfall was inevitable, but the cost was high. Fenrir's relationship with his siblings, Hel and Jormungandr, also played a role in the unfolding drama. Hel, ruler of the underworld, and Jormungandr, the world serpent, had their own parts to play in Ragnarok. Their destinies intertwined with Fenrir's, creating a web of fate that ensnared gods and monsters alike. The family of chaos, bound by blood and prophecy, rose against the order of the gods, their collective might a force to be reckoned with. As the battle raged on, Fenrir's fury grew. His heart, once a vessel of pain, now overflowed with the fire of vengeance. He was a force of nature, unstoppable and unforgiving. His very presence on the battlefield was a testament to the power of fate and the inevitability of change. The gods, despite their might and wisdom, could not escape the destiny they had tried so hard to avoid. In the end, Fenrir's escape was not just a moment of physical liberation, it was a symbol of the power of prophecy and the inexorable march of fate. His fury, unleashed upon the world, was a reminder that even the gods were subject to the whims of destiny. The breaking of Gleipnir marked the beginning of the end, a moment that would echo through the ages as a testament to the power of vengeance and the unyielding force of fate. In the swirling chaos of the apocalypse, a roar echoed across the 9 realms, a sound so primal and fierce that it struck fear into the hearts of even the bravest warriors. Fenrir, the mighty wolf, had broken free, and his vengeance was about to be unleashed upon the world. The ground trembled beneath his powerful strides, and the sky darkened with the shadow of his presence. Ragnarok had begun, and Fenrir was at the heart of the battle. Amidst the carnage and destruction, Fenrir's eyes gleamed with a savage light. His massive form, a blur of fur and muscle, tore through the battlefield with relentless fury. Every snap of his jaws and swipe of his claws brought down legions of warriors, both mortal and divine. His rage was a force of nature, unstoppable and unforgiving, driven by the centuries of imprisonment and betrayal he had endured. Fenrir's role in Ragnarok was not just one of destruction, but of prophecy. The seers had foretold that he would play a pivotal part in the end of days, and his actions on the battlefield were the fulfillment of those dark predictions. His presence was a symbol of the gods' hubris and the inevitability of their downfall. As he rampaged through the armies of Asgard, the gods knew that their end was near. In the midst of the chaos, Fenrir's gaze locked onto a figure in the distance. Odin, the All-Father, stood tall and resolute, his spear Gungnir in hand. The sight of the one who had orchestrated his imprisonment filled Fenrir with a renewed fury. This was the moment he had waited for, the culmination of his long-held desire for vengeance. The air crackled with tension as the two adversaries prepared for their final confrontation. Odin, wise and powerful, knew that this battle was inevitable. He had seen the prophecies, had known for centuries that this moment would come. As he faced Fenrir, he felt a mix of sorrow and resolve. The wolf was not just a beast to be slain, he was a symbol of the gods' failings, a reminder of the price of their actions. Odin's heart was heavy with the weight of what was to come, but his resolve was unshaken. Fenrir lunged at Odin with a ferocity that shook the very ground. His jaws, capable of devouring the sun and moon, snapped at the All-Father with lethal intent. Odin met his attack with equal ferocity, wielding Gungnir with a skill honed over millennia. The clash of wolf and god was a spectacle of raw power and ancient magic, a battle that would echo through the annals of time. The struggle was fierce and unrelenting. Fenrir's strength was overwhelming, but Odin's wisdom and experience gave him an edge. The battlefield around them fell away, their duel becoming the center of the cataclysmic storm. Each blow exchanged was a testament to their might, a clash of titans that shook the foundations of the world. As the battle raged on, it became clear that Fenrir's fury was unstoppable. His rage fueled his strength, pushing him beyond the limits of even the gods. Odin fought valiantly, but he could not match the sheer force of Fenrir's vengeance. The Allfather's defenses began to falter, and for the first time, he felt the true weight of his fate. With a final, devastating surge of power, Fenrir overpowered Odin. His massive jaws closed around the Allfather, and with a heart-wrenching crunch, he ended the life of the greatest of the gods. The death of Odin was a moment of profound sorrow and despair, a symbol of the end of an era. The Allfather, who had led the gods with wisdom and strength, was no more. Fenrir's victory was both triumphant and tragic. He had achieved his long-sought vengeance, but the cost was immeasurable. The world around him was in ruins, the gods who had once ruled over it lying broken and defeated. His heart, filled with rage and sorrow, ached with the weight of his actions. The Battle of Ragnarok had claimed countless lives, and the end of the world was nigh. In the aftermath of Odin's death, Fenrir's fury did not abate. He continued his rampage, tearing through the remnants of the gods' armies with relentless ferocity. The skies wept with rain and lightning, the earth trembled with each step he took. His rage was a force that could not be contained, a manifestation of the chaos and destruction that Ragnarok had brought upon the world. The death of Odin marked a turning point in the battle. The gods, leaderless and demoralized, fought with a desperation born of fear and sorrow. Fenrir's presence on the battlefield was a constant reminder of their impending doom, a symbol of the fate they could not escape. The end of days was upon them, and the world they had known was slipping away. As the battle drew to a close, Fenrir's thoughts turned to his family. He remembered his father, Loki, whose cunning had played a crucial role in his liberation. He thought of his siblings, Hel and Jormungandr, who had their own parts to play in the unfolding drama. The bonds of blood and fate that tied them together were stronger than ever, a testament to the power of prophecy and destiny. Fenrir's role in the Battle of Ragnarok was not just one of vengeance, but of transformation. His actions on the battlefield were a catalyst for change, a force that reshaped the world and its destiny. The death of Odin, the destruction of the gods, and the end of the world as they knew it were all part of a greater plan, a cycle of death and rebirth that would give rise to a new era. As the final moments of the battle unfolded, Fenrir's fury began to ebb. The world around him was a wasteland of destruction and sorrow, a testament to the power of his rage. But amidst the ruins, there was a glimmer of hope. The end of Ragnarok was not just an end, but a beginning. The world would be reborn, and from the ashes of the old, a new era would rise. Fenrir, the mighty wolf, had played his part in the grand drama of the cosmos. His fury had shaped the fate of the gods, his actions a testament to the power of prophecy and destiny. The Battle of Ragnarok was over, but the story of Fenrir, his family, and the world they inhabited would continue to echo through the ages, a reminder of the power of fate and the unyielding force of vengeance. In the wake of Ragnarok, the world lay in shambles, a haunting silence replacing the cacophony of battle. The once mighty gods were gone, their era ended in a maelstrom of fire and fury. Amidst the ruins, Fenrir stood, his heart heavy with the weight of his vengeance. The mighty wolf, who had brought doom upon the gods, now faced a world irrevocably changed by his wrath. The fate of Fenrir after Ragnarok was as enigmatic as the prophecies that had foretold his role in the end times. He had fulfilled his destiny, yet the emptiness that followed was a stark contrast to the rage that had driven him. His victory over Odin, his liberation from Gleipnir, had come at a cost he could scarcely comprehend. The world he had known was gone, and in its place was a desolate landscape, a testament to the cataclysmic events that had unfolded. Amidst the ashes and echoes of the fallen gods, a new world began to take shape. From the destruction, life slowly emerged, tentative and fragile. The surviving gods, those who had escaped the devastation, sought to rebuild what had been lost. Balder and Hod, resurrected from the underworld, joined forces with the children of the old gods to forge a new era. The air was thick with sorrow and hope, a strange blend of endings and beginnings. In this nascent world, Fenrir's presence was both a reminder of the past and a symbol of the new age. His role in Ragnarok had etched his name into the annals of history, a figure of fear and awe. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the rage that had fueled him began to wane. He wandered the desolate landscapes, his heart searching for a purpose beyond the vengeance that had defined him. The surviving gods viewed Fenrir with a mixture of caution and curiosity. He was a creature of prophecy, a being whose actions had shaped the fate of the cosmos. They saw in him the potential for change, a bridge between the old world and the new. Fenrir, too, sensed this shift. The world that had once bound him in chains now offered a different kind of freedom, a chance to redefine his legacy. As the new world began to flourish, Fenrir found himself drawn to the memories of his family. Loki, his cunning father, had played his part in the grand design, and his siblings, Hel and Jormungandr, had left their mark on the cosmos. The bonds of blood and fate that tied them together were stronger than ever, a testament to the enduring power of family and destiny. In the quiet moments of reflection, Fenrir pondered his place in this new age. He had been a force of destruction, a harbinger of doom, but could he become something more? The surviving gods, too, grappled with this question. They saw in Fenrir a potential ally, a being whose strength could help protect and nurture the fragile new world. Fenrir's legacy in this new age was a complex tapestry of fear, awe, and hope. He had been the embodiment of chaos and vengeance, yet in the aftermath of Ragnarok, he found himself at a crossroads. The gods, wary yet hopeful, extended a tentative hand of friendship. They recognized the power within him, a power that could be harnessed for the greater good. In time, Fenrir began to find a sense of peace. The rage that had once consumed him gave way to a deeper understanding of his place in the cosmos. He was no longer bound by prophecy or chains, but by a newfound sense of purpose. The world he now inhabited was one of rebuilding and renewal, and he became a guardian of this fragile peace. The new world, forged from the ashes of the old, was a place of beauty and resilience. The gods and mortals alike worked together to create a future that honored the past while embracing the possibilities of the present. Fenrir, with his immense strength and wisdom, became a protector of this delicate balance. His presence was a reminder of the power of change, a symbol of the potential for redemption. The legacy of Fenrir in this new age was one of transformation. He had been a destroyer, a symbol of the end times, but in the aftermath of Ragnarok, he became a guardian of hope. The surviving gods, once his enemies, now saw him as an ally, a force for good in a world reborn from the ashes of its own destruction. As the years passed, stories of Fenrir's role in the new age began to spread. The bards and storytellers spoke of his journey from vengeance to redemption, his transformation from a harbinger of doom to a protector of peace. His tale became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is potential for light and renewal. The aftermath of Ragnarok was a time of healing and rebirth. Fenrir, once a symbol of fear and destruction, found his place in this new world. His journey was one of redemption, a testament to the power of change and the enduring strength of the bonds of family and fate. The new age, built from the ruins of the old, flourished under the watchful eyes of the surviving gods and the mighty wolf who had played such a pivotal role in its creation. In the end, Fenrir's legacy was one of hope and transformation. The world he helped to shape was a testament to the power of redemption and the potential for renewal. His story, etched into the fabric of the cosmos, would be told for generations to come, a reminder of the enduring power of change and the unbreakable bonds of fate. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf of Norse mythology, has left an indelible mark on literature and art throughout history. His presence, fierce and enigmatic, has captivated the imaginations of artists and writers across centuries. From ancient manuscripts to modern adaptations, Fenrir's story has been told and retold, each portrayal adding layers to his complex legacy. In historical depictions, Fenrir often appears as a symbol of chaotic power and inevitable destruction. In medieval Norse art, he is sometimes shown as a gigantic, fearsome wolf, his eyes glowing with the fire of prophecy. These early images are raw and powerful, capturing the primal terror Fenrir inspired. Ancient sagas and Eddas describe him as a being of immense strength, bound by chains forged from magical materials, a force waiting for the moment of his release. These texts reflect the ancient Norse belief in the inevitability of fate and the dread of the end times. As artists and writers explored Fenrir's story, they depicted him as both a threat and a tragic figure. The illustrations in old manuscripts, like those in the Prose Edda, often portray him with dramatic intensity. His fierce eyes and snarling mouth convey a sense of impending doom, a visual representation of the chaos he represents. The depiction of his struggle against the gods is rendered with raw energy, capturing the dramatic tension of his fate. Modern adaptations have continued to explore Fenrir's story with new interpretations that resonate with contemporary audiences. In literature, Fenrir often appears as a complex character, embodying themes of betrayal, vengeance, and destiny. Authors have drawn on his myth to explore deep philosophical questions about the nature of power and the limits of free will. In some modern retellings, Fenrir is portrayed not just as a villain but as a tragic hero, a being whose immense power and destiny are intertwined with the god's own failings. In art, Fenrir has been reimagined through various lenses. Contemporary artists depict him in ways that blend traditional imagery with modern aesthetics. From graphic novels to fantasy illustrations, Fenrir's form is often depicted with a striking blend of realism and fantastical elements. His presence is portrayed as both majestic and terrifying, reflecting the dual nature of his character as both a force of destruction and a symbol of inevitable change. The impact of Fenrir's story extends beyond literature and art into popular culture. Films, video games, and television series often draw on his myth, presenting him as a central figure in epic narratives. These modern representations bring Fenrir to life with stunning visual effects and dynamic storytelling, capturing his essence in new and engaging ways. Each adaptation explores different facets of his character, from his fearsome nature to his tragic destiny, connecting with audiences through compelling, imaginative portrayals. Throughout the ages, Fenrir has been a powerful symbol in literature and art. His story, rich with themes of fate, power, and redemption, continues to resonate with people across different cultures and generations. Whether depicted in ancient sagas or modern adaptations, Fenrir remains a figure of profound significance, a reminder of the power of myth and the enduring nature of storytelling. Fenrir's story has roared into modern media with a power that is both compelling and chilling. In books, movies, and video games, this mythical wolf has been reimagined and transformed, finding new life in the digital age while retaining the fierce essence of his ancient legend. In literature, Fenrir has found a place in contemporary fantasy novels and mythological retellings. Modern authors draw upon the rich tapestry of Norse mythology to explore his character in complex and often sympathetic ways. In some novels, Fenrir is portrayed as a misunderstood anti-hero, struggling with the weight of his destiny and the betrayal he feels from the gods. These stories delve into his internal conflicts, showing him as more than just a symbol of chaos, but as a tragic figure caught in the web of fate. This nuanced portrayal invites readers to see Fenrir through a lens of empathy and understanding, adding depth to his legendary role. Movies and television series have also embraced Fenrir with striking visuals and dramatic storytelling. In these adaptations, Fenrir's imposing presence is brought to life with cutting-edge special effects that highlight his immense power and ferocity. Films and TV shows often present him as a central figure in epic battles, his struggle with the gods depicted in breathtaking scenes of destruction and valor. These portrayals emphasize the primal aspects of his character, capturing the awe and fear he inspires. The dramatic tension and visual grandeur of these adaptations make Fenrir's myth accessible and engaging for a broad audience, cementing his place in popular culture. Video games have taken Fenrir's legend into interactive realms, allowing players to engage with his myth in dynamic ways. In many games, Fenrir appears as a formidable boss or a key character in the storyline. His presence is often marked by intense gameplay sequences where players must confront or ally with him. The immersive experience of video games adds a new layer to his story, letting players experience the power and fury of Fenrir firsthand. These interactive portrayals give players a deeper connection to his legend, making them a part of the mythological drama that unfolds. The enduring legacy of Fenrir in popular culture is a testament to the timeless appeal of his story. Across books, movies, and games, he remains a powerful symbol of strength, destiny, and rebellion. His character resonates with modern audiences because he embodies universal themes of struggle and transformation. The ancient myth of Fenrir, with its rich blend of prophecy and tragedy, continues to captivate and inspire. As he leaps from ancient texts to contemporary screens, Fenrir's legend lives on, a powerful reminder of the enduring power of myth and the human fascination with stories of gods and monsters. In the world of Norse mythology, Fenrir is more than just a fearsome beast, he is the very embodiment of chaos and destruction. His story is a powerful testament to the ancient belief in the unstoppable forces that shape the cosmos. From his birth, Fenrir was marked by his connection to chaos. The prophecies foretold his role in bringing about the end of the gods and the world as they knew it. His immense size and strength made him a living symbol of the forces that could not be controlled or tamed. His very existence was a challenge to the order and stability that the gods sought to maintain. Fenrir's chaos is most vividly portrayed through his destructive power. As a young wolf, his growth was rapid and alarming, outstripping even the gods' ability to manage him. They attempted to bind him with chains, each one failing to hold his strength. His ability to break free from the bonds crafted to contain him illustrated the futility of their efforts to control the forces of chaos. When the gods finally bound Fenrir with Gleipnir, the magical chain, they did so with great trepidation. They knew that this was not just a matter of physical strength, but a struggle against the very essence of disorder that Fenrir represented. The act of binding him was a desperate attempt to stave off the inevitable chaos he would bring. His struggle against the chains was more than physical, it was a reflection of the cosmic battle between order and disorder. Fenrir's eventual escape from Gleipnir, facilitated by Loki, was a dramatic moment that unleashed his full destructive potential. As he broke free, the world trembled under the weight of his rage and power. The gods' fear was realized in the form of the final, cataclysmic battle of Ragnarok. Fenrir's unleashed fury was not just a display of strength, but a profound manifestation of the chaos he embodied. The analysis of Fenrir's destructive power reveals much about the nature of chaos in Norse mythology. His power was not arbitrary, but a force deeply woven into the fabric of existence. He was a catalyst for change, a force that, while destructive, was also necessary for the cycles of creation and destruction that governed the universe. His role in Ragnarok underscored the belief that chaos is an essential part of the cosmic order, an uncontrollable force that ensures the endless renewal of the world. Fenrir's destruction was a profound and unsettling force, a reminder of the thin line between order and chaos. His myth captures the essence of the primal fear that chaos instills, a fear that is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Through his story, we see that the power of chaos is not simply a destructive force, but a crucial element of the universe's ongoing transformation. Fenrir's legacy as a symbol of chaos and destruction is a powerful reminder of the ancient understanding of the balance between creation and destruction, order and disorder. In the shadowed corners of Norse mythology, where trust and betrayal intertwine, the relationship between Fenrir and the gods is a tale of heartbreaking treachery and shattered bonds. This story reveals a deep and painful truth about the fragility of trust and the heavy price of betrayal. Fenrir, the colossal wolf, was not always an enemy to the gods. As a child, he was raised among them, his enormous size and strength evident even in his early years. The gods, while wary, initially approached him with a semblance of trust. They were faced with a paradox. The monstrous wolf was a part of their world, yet he was destined to play a role in their downfall. The gods sought to control him, believing that by managing his power, they could avoid the catastrophic future foretold by prophecy. The gods' decision to bind Fenrir stemmed from their fear of the chaos he would unleash. However, this fear led them to deceit and manipulation, actions that would forever alter their relationship with the wolf. The gods' attempts to bind Fenrir were more than just practical measures, they were symbolic of a deeper breach of trust. Fenrir, who had once been among them, found himself increasingly isolated and betrayed. The chains they forged were not only physical restraints, but emotional ones that symbolized their failure to honor the bond they once had with him. The most poignant moment of betrayal came with the creation of Gleipnir, the magical chain used to finally bind Fenrir. To convince him to accept this final binding, the gods used deceit. They promised Fenrir that if he could not break free from this chain, they would set him free. Driven by a desperate need to prove his strength and innocence, Fenrir agreed to be bound, but only on the condition that one of the gods placed their hand in his mouth as a sign of trust. Tyr, known for his honor and bravery, stepped forward, placing his hand in Fenrir's jaws. When Fenrir realized he had been tricked, it was too late. The gods had succeeded in binding him with Gleipnir, and Tyr's hand was bitten off in the process. This sacrifice by Tyr, noble as it was, highlighted the devastating theme of trust within this story. Tyr's act was a gesture of ultimate trust, placing his hand in Fenrir's mouth despite the risk. Yet, the gods' betrayal of Fenrir was complete and irrevocable. They had broken the very bond of trust that Tyr had sacrificed so much to uphold. Fenrir's rage and sense of betrayal were deepened by the god's deceit, transforming him from a figure of potential redemption into a symbol of relentless vengeance. The story of Fenrir and the gods is a powerful reflection on the nature of trust and betrayal. It shows how easily trust can be broken and the profound consequences that follow. Fenrir's transformation from a potential ally to a harbinger of doom underscores the devastating impact of betrayal. The gods' fear and their subsequent actions set off a chain of events that would lead to Ragnarok, a cataclysmic end that seemed to be as much a result of their own actions as of fate itself. Tyr's sacrifice, while heroic, became a symbol of the gods' failure to honor the trust placed in them by Fenrir and by one of their own. It is a haunting reminder of the costs of deceit and the profound effect it has on relationships. Fenrir's story is not just about a powerful wolf and his role in the cosmic order, but about the deep and painful consequences of betrayal and the fragility of trust. In the shadowed corners of Norse mythology, where destinies intertwine and cosmic forces shape every fate, Fenrir stands as a powerful emblem of the theme of destiny. His story is a poignant reminder of the ancient belief in an inevitable, unchangeable fate that governs the lives of gods and creatures alike. From his birth, Fenrir was marked by prophecy. The ancient seers had foretold that this giant wolf would play a central role in the end times, Ragnarok. No matter how the gods tried to avoid it, Fenrir's fate was set. His destiny was entwined with the collapse of the divine order and the chaos that would follow. This unyielding sense of fate looms over Fenrir's story, making every action and event seem both inevitable and tragic. Fenrir's role in the myth is a stark representation of the Norse belief in destiny. In Norse mythology, the concept of fate, or Wyrd, is seen as a force that even gods cannot escape. The Norns, who weave the threads of destiny, had spun Fenrir's fate with an unbreakable thread. His destiny was not a matter of choice, but a powerful force that drove him towards his role in Ragnarok. This idea that no one, not even the gods, could alter their fated paths adds a layer of poignancy to Fenrir's story. His struggle against the chains that bound him was not just a battle of strength, but a desperate fight against the unchangeable fate that sought to control him. Every attempt to restrain him, every act of deception by the gods, only highlighted the tragic inevitability of his role. Fenrir's resistance and eventual escape were part of a predetermined cycle that he could neither change nor escape. The gods, despite their wisdom and power, were also bound by this cosmic web of destiny. Their actions, though they may have seemed like attempts to outwit fate, were also threads in the same tapestry that wove Fenrir's path. Their efforts to bind him, their betrayals, and even their ultimate downfall were all parts of the same grand design. They were not free from the constraints of fate any more than Fenrir was. This tragic inevitability underscores the profound and heartbreaking nature of Fenrir's story. He was born into a role that he could neither refuse nor escape, his every action a reflection of a fate that had been decided long before his birth. His rage and eventual destruction were not merely personal, but were bound to the cosmic order that dictated the rise and fall of all things. The concept of fate in Norse mythology is a powerful force that shapes the lives of gods and mortals alike. It is a reminder of the inescapable nature of destiny, a force that moves through the world with an unyielding hand. Fenrir's story is a testament to this belief, showing how even the most powerful beings are bound by the threads of fate. His life, marked by struggle and inevitable destruction, serves as a poignant reflection on the nature of destiny and the unchangeable paths that shape our world. In the annals of mythology, Fenrir's tale resonates with a haunting echo of other legendary creatures from different cultures. His story of power, betrayal, and destiny can be compared to numerous mythical beasts, each with its own unique role and symbolism. Understanding Fenrir alongside these other creatures reveals striking similarities and profound differences that enhance our grasp of his mythic significance. Fenrir, the colossal wolf of Norse mythology, embodies the raw force of nature and the terrifying power of fate. His strength and his role in the cosmic drama of Ragnarok place him alongside other fearsome beasts from mythological traditions. For example, the Greek myth of Typhon, a monstrous giant with serpentine features, mirrors Fenrir's role as a primal force of chaos and destruction. Like Fenrir, Typhon represents a primordial threat to the order of the gods, challenging their power and threatening their existence. In Chinese mythology, the dragon is another creature that shares thematic similarities with Fenrir. While the Chinese dragon often symbolizes power and benevolence, it can also embody chaos and destruction, especially when it defies human control or becomes a harbinger of disaster. The dragon's transformative power and its ability to bring both good and ill reflect the duality seen in Fenrir's nature. Both Fenrir and the Chinese dragon signify a force that, when out of balance, can lead to catastrophic consequences. Comparing Fenrir to the Leviathan of Judeo-Christian tradition provides another layer of understanding. The Leviathan is often depicted as a monstrous sea creature, a symbol of chaos and primal forces that defy control. Both Fenrir and the Leviathan share the role of a cosmic disruptor, challenging the order imposed by the gods and representing a threat to the stability of the world. This comparison highlights Fenrir's role in Norse mythology as a creature whose power and destiny are intertwined with the forces of chaos. Yet, despite these similarities, Fenrir's story also reveals differences that set him apart. Unlike Typhon or the Leviathan, Fenrir is not a solitary force of chaos, but a being with a deeply personal story of betrayal and fate. His transformation from a loyal creature to a symbol of vengeance reflects a unique narrative of trust and deception. The gods' attempt to bind him and the subsequent betrayal by Tyr adds a layer of tragic personal conflict to his myth that distinguishes him from other mythical beasts. Moreover, Fenrir's connection to Ragnarok, his inevitable role in the final battle, offers a distinct element in his mythological role. While other mythical creatures may embody chaos or destruction, Fenrir's story is intricately tied to a specific cosmic event. His fate is not just about power, but about fulfilling a preordained role in the grand scheme of the world's end. This sense of destiny and his active participation in the apocalypse make Fenrir a unique figure among mythical beasts. In comparing Fenrir to other mythological creatures, it becomes clear that while his role as a force of chaos and destruction aligns him with many legendary beings, his personal narrative of betrayal, fate, and cosmic significance sets him apart. His story is a compelling reminder of the complex interplay between power, destiny, and personal conflict in mythology. Fenrir's tale, marked by his struggle against fate and his ultimate role in Ragnarok, continues to resonate with the timeless themes found in myths across cultures. The howl of a wolf on a moonlit night stirs something primal within us, a connection to ancient legends that have spanned cultures and centuries. Wolves, powerful and enigmatic, occupy a significant place in mythology and folklore around the world. Their symbolism ranges from fierce protectors to symbols of destruction, and among these legendary creatures, Fenrir stands out as a figure of profound impact and dark grandeur. In many cultures, wolves are revered as symbols of strength, loyalty, and the untamed aspects of nature. In Roman mythology, the she-wolf, Lupa, is best known for nursing the twin founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. This portrayal of the wolf as a nurturing force, despite its fierce reputation, highlights the duality of its nature, capable of both protection and danger. In Native American traditions, wolves often appear as both totem animals and spirit guides. They are seen as symbols of family bonds and teamwork, embodying the virtues of loyalty and leadership. The wolf is respected for its role in maintaining the balance of nature, and its presence in mythological stories often reflects these qualities. In Norse mythology, Fenrir represents a more complex and darker side of the wolf's symbolism. Born of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angrboda, Fenrir's story is one of a creature bound by destiny and driven by vengeance. Unlike other mythological wolves, Fenrir's narrative is marked by betrayal and cosmic significance. His immense strength and his role in the apocalypse set him apart from the more protective or nurturing aspects of wolves found in other traditions. Fenrir's place among legendary wolves is unique and ominous. He is not just another wolf, but a creature of immense power and a symbol of chaos. His story is deeply intertwined with the fate of the gods and the end of the world, making him a central figure in the mythological tapestry of Norse culture. His role in Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world, underscores his importance as a force of destruction and transformation. The comparison between Fenrir and other legendary wolves reveals both similarities and stark differences. While many cultures see wolves as guardians or symbols of balance, Fenrir's tale is marked by his antagonistic role and the tragedy of his bound fate. His story is a poignant reminder of the darker side of wolf symbolism, where strength and power are not just respected but feared. In the broader landscape of mythology, Fenrir's dark legacy stands as a powerful counterpoint to the more benevolent or heroic depictions of wolves. His story is a reminder of the untamed forces of nature and destiny that can shape the course of history. As a figure of both immense power and tragic fate, Fenrir holds a special place in the lore of legendary wolves, embodying the fierce and often fearsome aspects of these magnificent creatures. Through the ages, the wolf has been a symbol of both revered qualities and formidable forces. From the nurturing Lupa to the fierce Fenrir, these creatures embody the complex interplay of strength, loyalty, and destiny. Fenrir's place among legendary wolves is a testament to the enduring fascination with these powerful animals and their role in the grand narratives of myth and legend. Imagine walking through the remnants of ancient Norse lands, where every stone and artifact whispers secrets of a bygone era. Among these whispers, the legend of Fenrir stands out, not just as a tale told by firelight, but as a myth that leaves traces in the very soil and stones of history. Archaeological evidence has unveiled fragments of this mythic past, revealing how the fearsome wolf has left its mark on the ancient world. In the cold, rugged landscapes of Scandinavia, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts that hint at the powerful symbolism of wolves. Carvings and inscriptions found on runestones and artifacts from the Viking Age sometimes depict wolves, reflecting the respect and fear they commanded. These images are not mere decorative elements, they signify something profound and deeply rooted in the Norse psyche. The wolf, especially Fenrir, was not just a creature of myth, but a symbol of cosmic forces and divine retribution. One of the most intriguing finds is the representation of wolves in the context of Viking burial practices. In some burial sites, artifacts associated with wolves have been discovered, including amulets and carvings. These items suggest that the wolf was a powerful symbol in Viking culture, potentially representing strength and the fear of chaos. The presence of wolf imagery in burial contexts might reflect the belief that such symbols could protect or guide the deceased in the afterlife, echoing Fenrir's role as both a destructive and protective force in Norse mythology. Another fascinating find is the discovery of a unique sculpture that seems to depict Fenrir himself. This artifact, found in a remote part of Scandinavia, is not merely a wolf, but one with an expression of rage and defiance. Such depictions reinforce Fenrir's status as a figure of immense power and chaos, and highlight how his legend transcended oral storytelling to become embedded in the material culture of the time. The historical significance of wolf imagery extends beyond simple representations. In Norse mythology, wolves often symbolized the destructive forces of nature and fate. Fenrir, as the ultimate embodiment of these forces, would have held a particular place in the collective imagination of the Norse people. The archaeological findings underscore this significance, showing that the fearsome wolf was a potent symbol of both the natural world and the mythic forces that shaped human destiny. These artifacts and depictions are more than relics, they are windows into how the Norse people understood their world and the mythological beings that populated it. Fenrir's presence in these historical remnants is a testament to the deep-seated belief in the power and significance of wolves. Each discovery brings us closer to understanding how this legendary figure was perceived in the ancient world and how his story was interwoven with the lives and beliefs of those who lived long before us. The interplay between Fenrir's myth and the archaeological evidence paints a vivid picture of how powerful legends were embedded in the everyday life of ancient peoples. Through these finds, we can sense the awe and fear that Fenrir evoked, not just as a figure of myth, but as a symbol that resonated deeply within the cultural and spiritual practices of the Norse people. Words have a way of carrying more than just their meanings. They hold echoes of history, culture, and mythology. The name Fenrir is no exception. This ancient name is a gateway to understanding how the legendary wolf's tale was woven into the fabric of Norse culture and how it connects to other myths across different traditions. Fenrir's name comes from Old Norse, where it is thought to be derived from the word fun, meaning marsh or fenland, combined with a root that might relate to beast or wolf. This connection paints a picture of a creature emerging from the wild, untamed lands, suggesting Fenrir's inherent connection to chaos and the natural world's darker, more primal aspects. The name itself evokes a sense of foreboding and power, capturing the essence of a creature whose very existence was bound to the themes of destruction and fate. Looking deeper into the linguistic roots, Fenrir resonates with similar names and concepts in other myths. In Old Norse, the word fun is linked to other mythological creatures and ideas related to water and marshland, often associated with danger and untamed forces. This connection implies that Fenrir is not an isolated figure but part of a larger pattern of mythological beings tied to the primal and chaotic aspects of the natural world. Moreover, Fenrir's name and its roots have parallels in other Indo-European languages and mythologies. For instance, in the wider context of Indo-European myths, wolves and their associated names often symbolized similar themes of wildness and destruction. This linguistic link suggests that the stories of powerful, often malevolent wolves are a recurring motif in the mythologies of various cultures, echoing through time and geography. In addition, the name Fenrir has been compared to other mythological names across different traditions that evoke the idea of a beast or creature of great strength. In Greek mythology, for instance, similar themes appear in the stories of monstrous figures like the Chimera or the Cerberus, the three-headed dog guarding the underworld. While these creatures are distinct, the shared idea of powerful beasts symbolizing chaos and fate bridges the gap between different mythological traditions. The linguistic analysis of Fenrir's name reveals much about how the Norse people viewed this legendary wolf. The name itself carries a weight of expectation and significance, hinting at the creature's role in the grand narrative of Norse mythology. By understanding the roots and connections of Fenrir's name, we gain insight into how the ancient Norse conceived of their world, the forces that shaped their destinies, and the way their myths intertwined with the broader tapestry of mythological thought. Fenrir's name is more than just a label, it is a testament to the rich, interwoven nature of ancient stories and beliefs. Through the study of language and etymology, we can better appreciate the depth and complexity of Fenrir's place in mythology, shedding light on how the myths of old continue to influence and resonate through the ages. The figure of Fenrir, the mighty wolf bound by the gods, carries profound psychological weight that resonates deeply within the human psyche. To understand Fenrir's role in our minds, we must explore how the archetype of the wolf functions in psychology and how Fenrir himself can be seen through the lens of Jungian analysis. Wolves in psychology often symbolize primal instincts, raw power, and the untamed aspects of human nature. They evoke feelings of both awe and fear, representing forces that are beyond our control and yet deeply embedded within us. This powerful image of the wolf reflects the duality of our inner lives, the balance between our civilized selves and our more instinctual, untamed impulses. Fenrir, as a manifestation of this archetype, embodies the primal fear and fascination with the unknown. His immense strength and ferocious nature make him a vivid symbol of the dark, chaotic forces that lie just beneath the surface of everyday life. The story of Fenrir captures the terror and fascination we feel towards these forces, reflecting our struggle to understand and control the wild aspects of our own psyches. In Jungian psychology, Fenrir can be seen as a symbol of the shadow, a term used to describe the parts of ourselves that we often repress or deny. The shadow consists of those aspects of our personality that we find difficult to acknowledge, such as our aggressive instincts, deep-seated fears, and desires. Fenrir, in his boundless strength and uncontrollable rage, represents these elements of our inner world that are powerful and potentially destructive if left unchecked. The gods' attempts to bind Fenrir with chains highlight humanity's struggle to contain and control these shadow aspects. The binding of Fenrir is more than a physical act. It symbolizes the psychological effort to confront and manage these overwhelming forces within ourselves. Fenrir's eventual breaking free of his chains represents the moment when these repressed parts of ourselves emerge uncontrollably, revealing the consequences of failing to address them. Fenrir's tale also speaks to the inevitability of facing these shadow elements. In Jungian terms, the more we attempt to deny or suppress these aspects, the more powerful and uncontrollable they become. Fenrir's story, culminating in the catastrophic events of Ragnarok, mirrors the psychological truth that the repressed parts of ourselves will ultimately demand attention and resolution. The relationship between Fenrir and the gods reflects our own interactions with our shadow selves. Just as the gods fear Fenrir's destructive potential and take extreme measures to contain him, we might fear facing our own darker sides. The story of Fenrir serves as a powerful reminder that confronting and integrating these shadow aspects is not only necessary but also a crucial part of our personal growth. Fenrir's role in the grand mythological narrative highlights the emotional and psychological turmoil that comes with such confrontations. His story is a vivid representation of the battle between order and chaos, the conscious and the unconscious, and the inevitable clash between our civilized facade and our primal instincts. By exploring Fenrir through psychological and Jungian lenses, we gain deeper insights into the nature of our own inner struggles. Fenrir's tale, with its themes of power, fear, and inevitable conflict, serves as a mirror reflecting the complexity of the human psyche and the powerful forces that reside within us all. The ancient Norse world was a place where the gods, myths, and powerful forces intertwined seamlessly with daily life. Among these potent forces was Fenrir, the colossal wolf whose presence was not just confined to the realm of stories but also seeped into the very rituals and ceremonies of Viking culture. The mighty Fenrir, bound by the gods and feared for his destined role in Ragnarok, commanded both respect and trepidation in the hearts of those who lived in his shadow. In the heart of Norse tradition, Fenrir was more than a myth. He was an embodiment of primal power and impending doom. Ancient rituals surrounding Fenrir were crafted not only to honor but to appease the formidable forces he represented. The Norse people understood that to defy Fenrir or ignore his potential for destruction was to invite chaos into their lives. Thus, rituals and ceremonies involving Fenrir were deeply embedded in their spiritual practices. One of the most profound practices involved making offerings to Fenrir to ensure his favor or to mitigate his wrath. These offerings were often conducted during significant times of the year, particularly during the changing of seasons, which were believed to be times of heightened cosmic activity. During these rituals, the Norse would prepare sacred altars, adorned with symbols of Fenrir and the wolf's fierce power. They would place food, weapons, and other valuable items on these altars as sacrifices, hoping to appease the spirit of Fenrir and ensure safety from his potential fury. The ceremonies were not merely about offering gifts, they were steeped in deep, symbolic acts meant to acknowledge Fenrir's role in the cosmic balance. The Norse people believed that by performing these rituals, they were participating in a grander scheme, a cosmic order that would either harness Fenrir's power or prevent it from unleashing chaos upon their world. The rituals often included invocations of Fenrir's name, along with chants and prayers that spoke of respect for the godly powers and their influence over the natural world. In Viking traditions, Fenrir's presence was felt during both joyous and somber ceremonies. During weddings and births, rites were performed to ward off any potential harm Fenrir might bring, ensuring that these life events were blessed and protected from dark forces. Conversely, during times of war or strife, rituals were held to invoke Fenrir's strength, hoping to gain the wolf's favor or to draw upon his formidable power to achieve victory. Fenrir was seen as a force that could either protect or destroy, depending on the nature of the ritual and the intent behind it. The vivid imagery of Fenrir and the rituals performed in his name reflect a culture deeply aware of the duality of existence. To the Norse people, Fenrir was not just a creature to be feared, he was a reminder of the raw, untamed aspects of the world that must be respected and, when necessary, addressed through spiritual means. His presence in their rituals was a constant acknowledgement of the fine line between order and chaos, and the necessity of maintaining balance within their lives. The ancient Norse practices involving Fenrir were not just about appeasement but were also deeply connected to the understanding of fate and destiny. By engaging in these rituals, the Vikings were participating in a cosmic dance with forces beyond their control, seeking to influence or at least acknowledge the inevitable outcomes foretold by their myths. Fenrir's role in these practices underscored the profound respect and fear that the Norse people held for the forces of destiny and chaos, recognizing that their existence was intertwined with these powerful, unpredictable elements. The ceremonies and rituals involving Fenrir were a way for the Norse people to connect with their mythology on a tangible level, engaging in practices that reflected their beliefs and their understanding of the world around them. Through these acts, Fenrir's legend lived on, not just as a tale of destruction but as a potent symbol of the eternal struggle between control and chaos, a struggle that defined their existence and their worldview. In the quiet corners of contemporary spirituality, Fenrir, the mighty wolf of Norse mythology, has found a renewed place of honor. His story, once a powerful myth told by ancient firelight, now echoes through modern pagan practices, where his symbolism continues to inspire awe and reverence. For many practicing modern Norse paganism, Fenrir is more than a tale of ancient dread. He is a symbol of raw, untamed power and a reminder of the natural world's primal forces. His role in mythology, entwined with fate and cosmic struggle, resonates with those who seek to connect with the ancient ways and the fierce spirits of old. Contemporary Norse pagans often view Fenrir through a lens of both respect and caution. He embodies the chaos and destruction that are inherent in the world, forces that are to be respected and understood rather than ignored. In rituals and ceremonies, Fenrir is honored as a powerful entity who represents the strength of nature's wild side and the inevitable cycles of creation and destruction. Modern practitioners may invoke Fenrir in various ways. Some might include his name in their prayers or meditations, acknowledging his role in the cosmic balance and seeking his guidance or strength. Others may incorporate symbols of Fenrir into their altars and sacred spaces, using his image to remind them of the power and unpredictability that exists in the natural world. Fenrir's story is also embraced in rituals that deal with themes of transformation and change. His transformation from a bound wolf to a harbinger of Ragnarok reflects the powerful and often tumultuous shifts that occur in life. By drawing on Fenrir's symbolism, practitioners can find strength in the face of their own personal upheavals and transformations. The wolf's narrative serves as a metaphor for overcoming obstacles and navigating through life's darker moments with courage and resilience. In modern pagan gatherings, Fenrir's presence is felt in the ceremonial practices that honor the ancient gods and goddesses. Festivals and rites dedicated to the Norse pantheon may include elements that pay tribute to Fenrir, acknowledging his part in the grand tapestry of myth and his continued relevance in contemporary spiritual practice. His role in these rituals is often one of both caution and celebration, reflecting the dual nature of his mythological presence. The way Fenrir is honored today speaks to a broader understanding of the importance of myth in human experience. By incorporating Fenrir into their spiritual practices, modern pagans connect with a tradition that values the wild and untamed aspects of existence. This connection is not just about reverence for a historical figure, but about integrating the lessons of ancient myths into their daily lives. Fenrir, as a symbol of chaos and power, provides a framework for understanding and navigating the unpredictable forces of nature and fate. As society evolves, the ancient stories of Fenrir have not only been preserved but also transformed into symbols that continue to resonate with contemporary values and experiences. The enduring legacy of Fenrir in modern paganism illustrates how these old myths still hold powerful lessons and meanings, adapting to new contexts while remaining deeply rooted in their ancient origins. Through rituals and symbols, Fenrir's presence in modern spirituality reflects a timeless connection to the forces that shape our world and our understanding of it. Picture a world where the gods had never succeeded in binding Fenrir. This world would be one of unrelenting chaos, where the shadow of the wolf looms over everything with terrifying certainty. The threads of fate would be spun in a different pattern, and the tapestry of Norse mythology would look strikingly different. In this alternate reality, Fenrir's escape would not merely be a fleeting moment of disruption, it would be a cataclysmic event that reshapes the cosmos. The gods, who once held their place of authority and order, would find themselves in a battle for survival against a force of nature unleashed. Fenrir, a beast of colossal strength and primal rage, would bring about an era of devastation and fear. Without the chains of Gleipnir, Fenrir's power would have grown unchecked, as he roamed the realms with a fury unrestrained. His presence would cast a dark shadow over the world, a reminder of the inevitable clash between order and chaos. The great wolf's dominion over the world would symbolize not just the end of the gods, but also the end of the world as known by all the beings of the cosmos. The gods' inability to bind Fenrir would dramatically alter the narrative of Ragnarok. Instead of a final, fated battle where order and chaos collide in a decisive moment, the end times might be characterized by a prolonged period of terror and upheaval. Fenrir's role in this endless turmoil would symbolize a ceaseless struggle between light and darkness, one that would redefine the very nature of existence. Norse mythology's rich tapestry would shift to accommodate this unbound force. The stories of heroism and gods fighting their ultimate battles would become tales of ongoing struggle. The myths that once foretold of heroic deeds and divine interventions would now speak of survival against an ever-present and overwhelming force of destruction. Fenrir's unchecked rage would become the new epicenter of Norse myths, overshadowing the gods' glory with his overwhelming might. The gods' interactions with the world and each other would be forever changed. They might become figures of desperation, fighting to protect what little remains of the world from Fenrir's relentless advance. The sagas of the gods, once filled with triumphs and wisdom, would now be laden with the stories of their futile attempts to contain the beast who could not be tamed. The impact on human lives and cultures would be profound. Ancient Norse societies, deeply entwined with their myths and gods, would face a world where their beliefs in divine protection and cosmic order are rendered meaningless in the face of Fenrir's chaos. The rituals and sacrifices once performed to honor the gods might shift to appease or mitigate the wrath of the beast. Fenrir's unchecked power would redefine the cultural and spiritual landscape, where the fear of an all-consuming force takes precedence over the worship of gods. This alternate reality would not only affect the Norse mythological world, but also resonate through history. The stories passed down through generations would change from heroic epics of gods overcoming great odds to dark chronicles of an unyielding beast that no power could contain. Fenrir's legacy would be one of dread and chaos, a symbol of what happens when even the mightiest are powerless to restrain the forces of destruction. In this imagined world, the very essence of fate and destiny would be redefined. The cyclical nature of life, once governed by the gods' triumphs and failures, would now be marked by an ongoing struggle against the primal force. The balance of power and the concept of destiny would no longer follow the old patterns. Instead, they would be continuously shaped by the unpredictable and terrifying presence of an unbound Fenrir. Imagine a world where the legacy of Fenrir lives on through his children, Hati and Skoll. These two wolves, born from the primordial chaos of their father, embody the same fierce, relentless power that Fenrir himself wielded. Their presence is not merely a continuation of their father's legacy, but a harbinger of apocalyptic events foreseen in the ancient prophecies. Hati and Skoll, with their piercing eyes and unyielding strength, are more than just beasts of mythology. They are symbols of cosmic forces at play, each destined to play a role in the grand tapestry of fate. Hati, whose name means hate, is the wolf who chases the moon, while Skoll, meaning treachery, pursues the sun. The relentless chase of these celestial bodies is a cycle that fuels the mythic narrative, adding to the drama of the end times. Hati's pursuit of the moon is a quest driven by an unending hunger. As he chases the glowing orb across the sky, his presence brings a sense of dread, an echo of the ancient prophecies that speak of the celestial bodies being swallowed by beasts. Every time Hati nears his prey, the world seems to hold its breath, sensing the impending doom. The moon, a beacon of light and stability, finds itself in a constant state of vulnerability, reflecting the perpetual struggle between order and chaos. The night grows darker as Hati closes in, symbolizing the encroaching darkness that looms over the fate of all beings. Skoll, on the other hand, chases the sun with a fierce determination that mirrors the chaos of his father. His pursuit of the sun is relentless and fierce, a symbol of the unending battle between light and darkness. The sun, a source of life and warmth, becomes a target of Skoll's insatiable hunger. Every day, as the sun makes its journey across the sky, it is pursued by Skoll's relentless chase, embodying the eternal struggle against the forces of entropy. The world below is caught in a perpetual dance of light and shadow, reflecting the turmoil of the cosmos above. The roles of Hati and Skoll are not merely symbolic, but are woven into the very fabric of Norse prophecy. Their pursuits are not just about chasing celestial bodies, but are intricately linked to the foretelling of Ragnarok, the end of the world. The ancient texts predict that during Ragnarok, these two wolves will finally catch their prey. When Hati swallows the moon and Skoll devours the sun, the world will be plunged into chaos and darkness, signaling the beginning of the final battle between the gods and the forces of chaos. The moment when Hati and Skoll achieve their fated victories is one of the most dramatic events in Norse mythology. The sky will darken, the stars will vanish, and the cosmic balance will be shattered. This act of consuming the sun and moon is not just a physical event, but a profound symbol of the end of an era. It signifies the collapse of the old world order and the onset of a new, uncertain future. The very fabric of reality will be torn apart, and the world will be engulfed in darkness as the forces of chaos and destruction claim their final triumph. The chilling anticipation of this moment is palpable. It is a reminder of the inevitable collapse of all things, a reflection of the transient nature of existence. The children of Fenrir, in their ceaseless chase, embody the relentless forces that drive the universe towards its ultimate end. Their roles are not just about the destruction of celestial bodies, but about the fulfillment of ancient prophecies that have been whispered through the ages. The chase of Hati and Skoll serves as a reminder of the fragile balance between light and darkness, order and chaos, and the inexorable march towards fate. The legacy of Fenrir lives on through his children, not just as mythical figures, but as powerful symbols of the cosmic struggle. Hati and Skoll's roles in mythology are more than just narrative elements, they are the living embodiment of the forces that shape the universe. Their relentless pursuit of the sun and moon reflects the unending cycle of creation and destruction, light and dark. As the world watches in awe and fear, the chase of these two wolves becomes a poignant reminder of the fragile balance that governs existence and the inevitable fate that awaits all things. In the chilling tale of Fenrir, one finds more than just a mythic beast bound by gods and destined for destruction. Fenrir's story carries profound lessons that echo through time, offering moral and philosophical insights relevant to our lives today. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, is bound by gods who fear his potential to bring about Ragnarok, the end of the world. His tale is a testament to the consequences of betrayal and fear. The gods, driven by their own dread, chain Fenrir with the strongest fetters, breaking promises made to him. This act of betrayal is a crucial part of the story, revealing how trust can be shattered by fear and suspicion. At the heart of Fenrir's tale lies the painful reality of betrayal. The gods, once trusted allies, deceive Fenrir into accepting chains that will imprison him until the world's end. This betrayal highlights the fragile nature of trust and the destructive impact when it is broken. In our own lives, relationships are often built on trust, and when that trust is violated, it can lead to deep-seated anger and conflict. Fenrir's story teaches us about the importance of honesty and integrity in our dealings with others, reminding us that deceit can have far-reaching consequences. Moreover, Fenrir's resistance against the chains represents the struggle against forces beyond one's control. Bound by Gleipnir, the magical fetter that holds him, Fenrir fights against his imprisonment with a fierce determination. His struggle reflects a universal experience, the fight against limitations and constraints imposed upon us. This aspect of Fenrir's tale resonates with anyone who has ever felt trapped by circumstances beyond their control. It underscores the value of perseverance and the drive to overcome adversity, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges. The tale of Fenrir also brings to light the concept of fate and destiny. Despite the gods' attempts to control his future, Fenrir's role in the prophecy is inescapable. His eventual escape and participation in Ragnarok illustrate the inevitability of fate. In modern life, we often grapple with the idea of destiny and how much control we truly have over our own lives. Fenrir's story reminds us that some events may be beyond our control, but our responses to these events are what define us. It speaks to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unavoidable trials. Fenrir's legacy also offers a powerful lesson about the destructive nature of unchecked anger and vengeance. His anger towards the gods for their betrayal transforms into a force of immense destruction. When Fenrir finally breaks free, his wrath is unleashed, leading to catastrophic consequences. This aspect of the story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of harboring resentment and the potential for anger to escalate into destructive behavior. It urges us to address our emotions constructively and seek resolution rather than letting anger fester and grow into something more harmful. In the context of modern life, Fenrir's tale resonates with those who struggle with feelings of betrayal, anger, or being trapped by circumstances. His story encourages us to reflect on our own experiences with trust and deception, reminding us of the importance of maintaining integrity and understanding the impact of our actions on others. It also highlights the significance of confronting our challenges with resilience and seeking healthy ways to manage our emotions. Fenrir's tale, though rooted in ancient mythology, carries timeless lessons that continue to speak to the human experience. It challenges us to consider the consequences of betrayal, the struggle against limitations, and the importance of managing our emotions. As we navigate our own lives, Fenrir's story provides a poignant reminder of the enduring relevance of these themes, urging us to approach our challenges with wisdom and compassion. Fenrir, the colossal wolf from Norse mythology, casts a long shadow across the tapestry of ancient stories and beliefs. His tale, marked by fierce defiance and ultimate destruction, holds a central place in the pantheon of mythological creatures and serves as a profound symbol of chaos and fate. From the moment of his birth, Fenrir was destined to be a force of unimaginable power. His story begins with his bond to the gods, who, despite their initial trust, soon felt threatened by his potential for destruction. This fear led to the creation of chains and fetters designed to contain him, but they only set the stage for a larger, inevitable confrontation. As Fenrir's chains tightened, so did the gods' grip on their own fears and insecurities, setting in motion a chain of events that would culminate in Ragnarok, the end of the world. The impact of Fenrir on Norse mythology is profound. He embodies the uncontrollable and the destructive, a reminder of nature's wildness and the consequences of breaking trust. The story of his imprisonment and eventual release reflects the struggles against fate and the inevitability of destiny. His role in Ragnarok, the final battle, marks him as a pivotal figure in the Norse apocalypse, symbolizing both the end and a new beginning. Fenrir's anger, resulting from betrayal and chains, becomes a catalyst for the ultimate destruction, showcasing how unresolved conflict and fear can lead to devastating consequences. Fenrir's legacy extends beyond his mythological role. He represents a powerful force that transcends simple categorization as merely a creature of chaos. His story intertwines with themes of betrayal, resistance, and destiny, offering timeless lessons about trust and the nature of fate. The gods' betrayal and Fenrir's subsequent wrath serve as a reminder of the delicate balance between power and trust, and how easily this balance can be disrupted. In modern times, Fenrir continues to capture the imagination, symbolizing the raw power of nature and the consequences of fear-driven actions. His tale resonates with contemporary themes of struggle against fate and the importance of understanding and managing our own destructive tendencies. Fenrir's impact is seen in various forms of art and literature, where he is portrayed as a symbol of chaos, power, and the untamed forces of nature. The significance of Fenrir lies in his embodiment of elemental forces beyond human control. He is both a product of and a challenge to the gods' efforts to control fate, illustrating the inevitable clash between order and chaos. His story is a powerful narrative about the limits of control and the consequences of disrupting the natural order. Through Fenrir, we see the intricate dance between power and responsibility, and the far-reaching effects of actions driven by fear and betrayal. Fenrir's legacy in Norse mythology is a testament to the complex interplay of fate, power, and trust. His story is not just about a beast bound by chains, but a profound narrative about the struggle against one's destiny and the destructive consequences of breaking trust. As we reflect on Fenrir's tale, we are reminded of the timeless lessons it imparts about the nature of conflict, the role of fate, and the enduring impact of betrayal and power.